Hi, Savannah.
Hi, Emily.
We're here.
We're back.
It's been a minute.
We took a really long hiatus.
Yeah, I would like to start by saying thank you to everyone who has been waiting and asking if and when we are coming back.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was really encouraging to because, we didn't really want to disappear.
No.
Things happened.
Life things happened, and that's okay, but it's really nice to know that some people actually wanted to listen to our project.
Yeah, so we're happy to be back.
Yes.
And boy, has this album been a journey.
From day one, night one, it was a long process.
A long night's journey.
Yes. So the first night, let's just talk about that. So obviously Taylor Swift, she's ramping up to drop her album. Of course, everyone's in high anticipation. I'm in high anticipation. My whole apartment is decked out with Taylor Swift things. I'm decked out with Taylor Swift things, the shirt, the bracelets.
I remember I tried to coordinate some other kind of event with you for that evening. And you were like, I'm sorry, the album is coming out. That's my Super Bowl. I'm not available that day.
Those words. I said, I'm not available. I have a listening party and you're welcome to join. But if you don't want to do that, I'm so sorry. I cannot join you wherever you are. I have snacks that are being prepared specifically for tonight.
Yeah. High anticipation.
Yes. So she dropped her album and I was on a listening party phone call with one of my very good friends and fellow Swiftie. And man, right off the bat, we were like, okay, first impressions, it's good. Okay. It's bopping. It's so incredibly sad. And that didn't end ever.
Yeah. I didn't listen on the night of, I think I listened the next day though.
Did you?
I think so.
Yeah.
I made it a priority to listen that weekend before too much commentary had come out. If not the next day, that weekend.
I remember talking to you about it the first week, certainly.
Yeah. And I was just like, wow, I didn't like it.
And I couldn't disagree with you at first, which made me so upset.
Right.
I was actually very sad. Emotionally, my emotions were messed up for days. This really touched me in a harsh way.
Yeah, because we've been working on this project, and we had been working under the impression that we would have 10 albums to talk about, and then we kind of realized, oh yeah, we're on schedule to have another album to talk about. Yes. Won't that be fun? And it's like, wow, this is not the note we wanted to end on.
No, and it was two albums, two really sad albums back to back. And I was like, I've lost her. I've lost the fight. It's not going to happen. But then
we listened to it again together this time.
And everything changed.
It was like alchemy. Lead was turned into gold.
The understanding of this album, there's so many layers, and it's, I think, her best piece of work that she's ever put together. I do think it's a masterpiece just based on all of the layers, the theming, the structure.
Yeah, we should talk more about why we hated it though. The feeling of betrayal that you as a Swiftie felt.
Yeah.
There were some aspects of the feelings that she expressed that seemed really contradictory. In a way that made it sound like she didn't even know what she wanted and was mad at the world for not giving it to her.
Yeah.
It's not just feelings are weird and sometimes they don't make sense. It was you're contradicting yourself and blaming everyone else for your problems kind of a thing. And some of the songs are about a rebound relationship. We'll get into that. But that was also really frustrating to me because it was when you know something's a bad idea, which it is so clear that she did.
Yeah.
You don't get to then complain about it when it messes you up because you knew what you were getting into. So that was frustrating. And then there was just this sense of, I don't care what anyone thinks, including the fans, which is new ground.
That has never been crossed.
Yeah.
We've never been in that area before. And that, I think, is what really saddened me as a fan, because I think what's so pivotal to being a Swiftie and being a fan is this friendship that she's forged with us, and that she also puts forth, it's not just one-sided. She's I'm friends with the Swifties. I share my life with them, and I feel like we're friends, and we make friendship bracelets.
Yeah.
And
it's been a theme that she's come back to on albums when she's losing her family, losing relationships. She always came back to the fans as, we're building something beautiful together, and that brings me comfort and solace.
Yes.
And that was just gone.
Yes. Especially in certain tracks like I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, and even in But Daddy I Love Him, where she's so blatant about not caring what anybody thinks at all.
Even the people who say they want the best for her. Right. We know that's the fans.
Yes. So a lot of these things all together without any context and not really making sense of the tracks or what her purpose was in putting together the album, it created a really sad feeling. I was very overwhelmed.
You felt betrayed, right?
I felt betrayed.
Yeah.
I felt really betrayed, and I didn't know how to put that into words at the time. In the months since it came out, I was like, okay, I feel like I can put it aside a little bit. It's still a Taylor Swift album. I love listening to it. Like, I love certain songs. I like things musically and lyrically, but really everything changed when we listened to it together.
Yeah.
Let's hop in.
What happened? We sat down and we listened to it, and it took us a long time to schedule this work night. And it was a work night, you know.
Yeah.
Look, we like getting together. We enjoy spending time together, but this was like, we don't really want to do this, but we know we have to. Yeah. So we'll put it on the calendar and it'll just get done.
We'll listen to it. We'll find something to say about it. It was genuinely work, but we got out our wine glasses.
That's
as
right.
we always do for a work night. We sat down, put it on, and something began to unfold.
And
Will you tell the people what it is?
It's a chiasm.
Oh, what?
A chiasm. This is a literary structure named after the Greek letter chi. It looks like an X. And that's a structure where the beginning and the end are parallel. The second thing and the second to last thing are parallel. And the set of parallels sort of grows to a center point where everything turns and changes. And everything, the second half where everything's paralleling the things that you have already seen, has a twist on what it was parallel with. So you have this set up for the first half, then something changes, and then we're looking at all those things in a new light, and we're coming to the end and we're seeing the whole thing in a totally different light.
Yeah. I think you can imagine it, or how I try to imagine it, is like a pyramid where the first thing and the last thing are the bottom rung of the pyramid, and steps up from that get closer and closer to the center of the chiasm. And the center of the chiasm typically is a turning point and also like the heart of the matter, what everything's really about. And then, like you said, when you're on the second half of the chiasm, kind of like the steps down from the pyramid, everything is being expanded upon and explained a little bit better and fleshed out more. And we didn't really understand that until probably about the middle of the album.
Yeah.
But
I think it was track 11 of 16 where we actually went, wait a second. I feel like we've covered this ground before, but different.
Yes.
And then we had to go back and relook at everything and say, oh my goodness, that is what's going on. This changes everything.
Yes.
So track 11, the thing that woke us up to this fact is I Can Fix Him. No, really, I can. Which parallels and therefore sort of reflects on But Daddy, I Love Him. And they both have a really strong Wild West theme. There's trains, there's guns, there's highways. It's a Western, especially track 6 is really a throwback to her country style. Like, it sounds like it could have been on Fearless or Speak Now.
Yes, absolutely.
And she uses a pre-chorus and a bridge. It's structurally very old Taylor style.
Absolutely. Too high a horse for a simple girl to rise above it. She talks about tucking tendrils into a woven braid, which also the first line, I forget how the West was won. I forget if this was ever fun. So there's definitely all of that kind of like Wild West theming. In But Daddy, I Love Him, she's also going into a lot of her like religious background and her upbringing, which was really pivotal for her. And she talked a lot more about that in her early discography.
Yeah, there's, it was in that era that she talked about, or she named a song Hallelujah, right? Or that was a big part. Sing Hallelujah. Oh, yes. I forget the actual name of the track, but that was like a repeated line in the track. But those themes were really strong back then, and so and again, this is the song where she kind of rejects all of that.
This is where I felt the most betrayed. Yeah. In the first listen through, I felt very betrayed by this. I'm not gonna lie and say it's not because I'm a Christian and she's really ragging on the Christian faith in this one. It was a little bit about that, but also just kind of a rejection of everything that all the people in this song that want good things for her. She rejects that. Because they aren't giving her the one thing I wanted. She says, too high a horse for a simple girl to rise above it. They slammed the door on my whole world. The one thing I wanted. Which is interesting that those lines come
to that.
They come one after the other. Yeah.
Almost like she knows it's a contradiction.
Yes. There's more to that. But anyway, I do think that musically the Western theme or feel of it was really what clued us into linking it with I Can Fix Him. That's where we were first given a hint of like, we were just here, were we not?
Yeah, this feels like we were just here. And again, there's the religious theming saying, your good Lord doesn't need to lift a finger. I can fix him. No, really, I can. But the last line of this song is, whoa, maybe I can't.
Yes.
So clearly the ground that we covered in But Daddy, I Love Him was not where she wanted to leave that thought.
No, it was a thought that she had at one point, but it's not where she wanted to leave it in the scope of things at the end of this album. She expands on it in the chiasm in its parallel song. The next pairing that I thought really went together and really locked in the chiasm at that point, it felt like
it was a done deal. I didn't need to convince you any further.
No, I was like, this is it. It's clinched for me.
Yeah. This is not just some random thing that Emily sees.
Yes.
This is
Loss of My Life in the chiasm. Its parallel song is So Long London, which is track 5. It is
the most poignant track 5.
It's track 5.
Yeah.
It's the most emotional, the most poignant song on the album.
It feels the most transparent and sincere, genuine.
And the only other song that I feel the same way about is Loss of My Life. Track 12, which for me makes me think that Loss of My Life is about Joe Alwyn. There's a lot of talk out there that it might be about Maddie Healy, this or that.
No,
I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, that is when we listened to this album, I think we stopped after Loss of My Life and like tried to argue each other into thinking it was about Maddie Healy.
Yes, I was like, in your suit and tie, in the nick of time. Well, he was a Jehovah's Witness, and they wear suits.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what about in black and white? Well, his album art was sometimes black and white. And it just kind of all fell flat after thinking about it a little bit more, especially in the context of the chiasm.
And it is a little bit, I think she is purposefully
leaving it vague a bit.
Leaving it vague because maybe I'm flashing forward a little bit here, but the idea is that things appear to be about one thing when they're really about another.
Yes.
And I think we'll see that when we talk about what's at the center and what's at the edges of the chiasm. But even among the fans, when the trailers were released, there was this huge debate. Like, it looks like it could be Tortured Poets Department, like a police department, like investigative type theming. Or it seems like it could be a medical department in an asylum. There's this madness thing going on.
Right.
And so there's this constant question of what is it really about?
Yeah. What is the Tortured Poets Department?
Right.
Is it a mental institution or is it a police department? We don't know.
Right. And she's pointing to both.
She does throughout the whole album. And like you said, the chiasm is the answer for all of our questions. So what we're trying to do is really prove to you that it is a chiasm so that we can explain it to you in depth.
The next brick in the wall of the evidence that we are building for you to mix all the metaphors ever.
Yes.
Is
the next brick in the pyramid.
Right, in the pyramid. Down Bad, to summarize, is the story of an alien abduction or a relationship that feels like an alien abduction where you're just left kind of going, did that really happen? Yeah. And I think it did. And I think it was really cool, but
I'm not allowed to talk about it. People think I'm crazy.
Yeah. And now I kind of wish it had never happened because now it's really painful to come down from.
Yes.
That's parallel with the song I Can Do It With a Broken Heart.
Which musically, they're very similar. Beat-wise, I'm going to say vibe. I know we hate it, but just vibes-wise, they're very, very similar. And again, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart is a reflection of Down Bad in that it's a reflection of a really strong love-bomby relationship and the aftermath of that.
And the surrealness of the experience, trying to live, knowing that you've just had this crazy out-of-world experience and then coming back and showing up to work, which I think is why this song was such a hit. Yeah. Because I feel like we've all been there where our personal life is falling apart. Our heart is broken in one of a dozen different ways. And we have to show up with a smile to our day job and have our customer service voice on.
Exactly. And that's the extra layer that's added. That's the chiasm. That's what we're talking about. The Down Bad is the heartbroken piece that I Can Do It With a Broken Part. The extra layer that's added in the chiasm is the aftermath, the showing up with the showing up to work and all of that. That's the expansion piece on it. So
yeah, and I think that, again, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart seems like it really resents the fans. It's like, you're demanding that I perform when it's the last thing I want to be doing. I'm miserable. I hate this. I hate being here for you. When really that doesn't mean she hates her whole life.
No.
It means she's going through a hard time.
Which is fair.
Yeah. And it makes it yet more relatable.
Absolutely. Next, Brick, I think is also pretty compelling.
Just based on the title alone.
Yes. Track 3, My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys. And that's paralleled with The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. Now, aside from the fact that a boy is a small man.
I think that's all you need.
That is all you need. But also thematically, they're both about Matty Healy.
Right.
Or as I like to call him.
Clearly.
Ratty Healy.
Yes.
He's ratty.
And I think we will probably have to get into the details of the relationships.
Sure.
Because we've talked in vague terms about these things that she went through. You and I have context. I don't know why I have context. I think it's because I actually looked up what
You're like, what was this
yeah.
about?
Yeah. Which I have tried not to do for the rest of the albums, because I just wanted to wait for you to tell me what it was about.
And now we were doing it together.
Yeah.
But also, it was a bit of a red herring, because when you try to look up what this album is about, you're going to get it's about Matty Healy and it's about Joe Alwyn and it's about those things only. And our argument is that it's not actually about either of those things. The heart of the matter is that this is Taylor Swift's story, and it's about her dealing with those things that happen to her, and also what kind of a person, like how she thinks of herself after going through all of those things.
What kind of a person she wants to be, what kind of a person she wants to grow into because of her experiences. That this is not, I feel like if the album were really about one or the other or both of these men, she would be smaller in our eyes.
Right. Which I think is why I struggled so hard when I thought it was about just two boys.
Yeah.
I thought less of her. And I feel bad about that now, because I should have had more faith in her.
Yeah.
I think more of her now.
Yeah. Because she's bringing herself back into the driver's seat of her life. She is placing, I don't know, it makes it sound really selfish to be like she's placing herself at the center of the narrative, but I don't think that is a selfish thing to do in this context.
No. She's kind of taking control of her life.
Yeah, and that was a real theme of her relationship with Joe Alwyn, right? Was she felt trapped, and we'll see that in the very center of the chiasm is this theme of being imprisoned and caged and coming out of that, fresh out the slammer. She's released from prison. Who's Afraid of Little Old Me is her coming back as a ghost after dying
on like a hangman's noose.
Right. Yeah.
Floating down the street. Let's go straight to the heart of the chiasm, though. So if you were to envision all of the songs as a pyramid, the top rung would be tracks 8 and 9, Florida and Guilty as Sin. And the two of these, I feel like, are two sides of the same coin. It's very escapism in nature. Florida is about escaping to Florida. Right. And it's a bop, and I will not explicit, back down.
Yeah.
I'll die on the hill.
It also features Florence of Florence and the Machine, which is delightful. And she even alludes to Florence's song Cosmic Love in Down Bad, which is interesting.
Love that. But Guilty as Sin, I think, is the true, it really takes the cake, I think, in meaning and also musically. I like it better.
I think as a turning point, it's more clear. Maybe that's because it's the second half of the turning point.
Maybe.
In that it's then designed to shed more light on what came before. But it kind of brings together the dual themes of the album.
Which are?
The madness and the drugs and the escapism. Which
are closely associated with Matty Healy. Yeah. Whenever it's mentioned in a song, there's mention of madness or drugs. And then
on the other side, we have death and ghosts and dying and imprisonment and the things that characterized her relationship with Joe Alwyn.
And the two of those themes are really intertwined in this song, which this song is very sexually explicit in nature, but in that also is...
I feel like I've heard worse things on the radio.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like...
Yeah. No, I'm just... Yeah. But even in just like the first verse, my boredom's bone deep. This cage was once just fine. Am I allowed to cry? I dream of cracking locks, throwing my life to the wolves. So she's in a cage, right? She's dreaming of escaping, and she's asking herself questions. I'm seeing visions. So there's that madness. Mm-hmm. Am I bad or mad or wise? And this is where I think we get to the heart of the issue of the whole album. All of the questions that she's asking in this song, I think she was trying to find the answers to. Am I bad? Am I a bad person for the way that I dealt with these situations? Am I crazy? Am I mad? Or am I wise? Like, am I actually smarter than all of you? One of the other, how can I be guilty as sin? Am I guilty of all of these things that are mentioned in the song?
Which I feel like it's hard to talk about this song without referencing, without going back to track 7, Fresh Out the Slammer, because she describes the relationship where her partner was dreaming about someone else and saying, well, that's fine. Like, it's not like I did anything.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as bad thoughts. It's only if you do things. So then in Guilty as Sin, she's looking at the ways that she lusted after someone else and said, well, by your logic, I'm fine. But am I guilty? Is that actually wrong? Because I feel like it's wrong.
Right. Exactly. So I think she's really like, she is toying with all of these questions in this song, and then also she's combining the death imagery with some resurrection imagery as well.
Yeah, which also felt incredibly sacrilegious the first listen through.
Right. It did. But that kind of harkens back to False God of Reputation, where she's also talking about Joe Alwyn and her relationship, where like, this is a false god, we worship with my hips kind of a thing. And like, here's the same thing again, like another sexually explicit song talking about that relationship, but also talking about like she kind of died in that relationship,
which goes back to the song
You're Losing Me.
You're Losing Me, right?
There's the heartbeat as the underlying like tone of the song.
Is that the one where she goes, I was sick, you wouldn't admit that we were sick, but I was dying?
Right. Yeah. And like her face is gray.
Yeah.
She's like losing her breath kind of a thing. So she was slowly dying in that song, and now she's asking, what if I roll the stone away? Are they're gonna crucify me anyway? So what if I free myself from this relationship where I'm literally dying?
Everyone's gonna say I was at fault regardless,
right?
So I might as well do the thing that saves me in a sense.
Exactly. And then we get into some lyrics that are like clearly about like, they don't know how you've haunted me so stunningly. Lots more death imagery
into ghosts,
leaning into ghosts.
Yeah, which we get in spades in the following track, Who's Afraid of Little Old Me.
Yes, another point where like she's just died on the gallows, and then she literally levitates down the street to go break up a party, which I think is amazing.
Yeah. Great image. It works in Fiddler on the Roof. It works in this album. It's great. All right, so that was the center of the chiasm. The heart of the matter is her dealing with these things, taking control back of her life, coming back from this death relationship,
which lasted for 6 years, as we've talked about before.
Yeah.
Where she felt trapped, at the very least. We don't really know all of the details, only what she tells us about it, but it seems at least somewhat emotionally abusive in that feeling trapped. She was definitely carrying the weight, according to her, carrying the weight of his depression and or bipolar, some mental illness that she describes a lot as like his darkest blues.
Yeah, that's really clear, I think, in track 5, So Long London, where she's just struggling to keep him alive. And that's the story of 6 years, just like trying to carry this relationship on her back.
My spine split from carrying us up the hill.
Sisyphus vibes.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think also key and woven through this album is the concept that she wants marriage and a family. And apparently for 6 years, that was kind of the carrot he was dangling in front of her without ever following through, which is why when Maddie Healy apparently, allegedly,
came along and offered her this.
Yeah, she was like,
sure,
okay,
that's what I've always wanted. And even though like the fans don't like him, he's, I feel, an objectively bad person. But I won't say why. You can look that up on your own time. But
he does his little ring thing that she talks about in the song,
yes,
right? Where like they're at dinner and he takes the ring off of her
middle finger and puts it on the one people put wedding rings on.
Yeah. That's like if you're not about to follow through, jerk move.
You cannot do that. Yeah. You absolutely cannot do that to a girl. Yeah.
Whether or not he knew that had been a thing on her heart for 6 years in this other relationship,
I feel like you should know that.
You should know that
for anyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
But he offers this to her. Yeah. In some way, shape, or form, and that's all she's ever wanted. But in the song Down Bad, she says, it's like I lost my twin. Like they're actually the same person in her mind. So this person that she somehow on some level, chemistry or otherwise, feels very, very close to and similar to personality wise, is offering her everything she's ever wanted and love bombed her and then took it all away.
I forget how we got onto this.
I
forget where.
But it's important that we know how the relationships were set up anyway.
Yes. Oh, should we just put a bow on the theming thing and say, you know, we had these two, Madison Drugs and Escapism, which is the Maddie Healy experience, TM, and the Death and Ghosts, which was the relationship with Joe Alwyn experience, TM. And then we have not addressed the detective and decoding theme, right, which I think Savannah unlocked
in moments before we started recording. I think that theming is all from Taylor's perspective. She's the detective. She's trying to go back and figure out what happened here. And when
trying to untangle everything, because we did notice that these themes were wrapped up with each other in a way that I think is demonstrable from general experience, where after a 6-year breakup,
there's no way those emotions are not going to pour over into your rebound relationship.
Yeah. You're trying to deal with everything that you lost over the course of those 6 years.
And also not think about it at the same time. Somehow process, but also compartmentalize and move on.
And put this new person in the place of the person that had such a huge place in your heart.
Those emotions will tangle together. You're just, you're just a person. So that's going to happen. And so I do think it's interesting that she also entangles those ideas together in her songs and swirls them into all of her poems.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that.
Yeah. But yeah, so Taylor is the detective. She's trying to go back and figure out what happened here. Whenever we see these detective themed lyrics, it's always from her perspective, like she was decoding him and she's finding crucial evidence that she didn't imagine the whole thing.
And I think it's key that she's not asking us to decode.
No.
I think that's kind of what the fans immediately tried to do, because they're like, is it a detective story? Can I solve it?
We got this. And honestly, I do think we cracked it, but but yeah, so she's the detective trying to figure out what happened here. So those are the main themes that we really picked up on throughout the album, the first album, lyrically. I think I like to give a pass for the first and the last song in context of the chiasm, because they're so far away from the center. I feel like Fortnight and Clarabout are a little bit different. Fortnight is giving a lot of context for what happened in Midnights.
It's kind of the bridge. Like they're serving different purposes as the first and the last song. Like they are set in parallel in the context of the chiasm, but they are serving different functions.
Right. So the Fortnight, the first line of Fortnight is, I was supposed to be sent away, but they forgot to come and get me, which is a direct callback to the last line of Midnights, or in the last verse at least. Is that your key in the door? Is it you? Or have they come to take me away? Because she's literally gone crazy from that relationship. So it's a nice nod to Midnights. It's a bridge. And then it really does set up all of the themes for the album, especially the theme of madness.
She points forward to Florida, being lost in America. Coming back to America after living in London is a huge theme, as is evident from the track titled So Long London.
Yeah.
And also Florida, move to Florida. And there's also this theme of the car, which we see in the Wild West songs, driving away into the sunset kind of a thing. And then there's the question of commercialism, almost commercialism is the wrong word. Consumability might be better. I don't know what I'm looking for. The concept that she was used like a car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's in the second half of the album, there's a line about a rental car. I think it's actually in I Can Fix Him. No, sorry, Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, which is even better for my point. But these images, and she says that in the music video, or in the introduction to the music video for Fortnight, which has elements of the entire album sprinkled through it. Like every line is about something that we'll see more of later.
Yes, and especially in the music video, she specifically said when she released the music video, this is about the whole album. So there's a lot tied up in Fortnight, and it does play its own role as the first song, setting everything up. So I think for that reason, we give it kind of a free pass as being like, it is in the chiasm, but it has a special role. And I think Clara Bow
has a parallel but very different special role in that it's reflecting on the entire album as a whole. It's like this pearl that is just like standing by itself and like reflecting everything that came before it.
And like everything else on this album, it appears to be about one thing, but it's about another.
Yeah.
The title is Clara Bow. You think it's going to be all about Clara Bow, but it's actually about Taylor Swift.
Right.
And
which should not surprise us.
No. She uses Clara Bow and Stevie Nicks.
She places herself in a line with them as like these were the icons of their days, which is interesting because I certainly had never heard of Clara Bow before this song.
No.
I don't think a lot of people had heard of Clara Bow before this song.
Almost 100 years ago.
Yeah. But there are specific reasons she chose Clara Bow, I think. The history of madness in her family.
So
and also
tragic. So tragic.
Tragic. But she was a black and white film star. What did you call her? The It Girl?
The It Girl.
That was her official title.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got the black and white film theme. We've got the madness theme. We've got the crime theme. Yeah, it's a perfect fit for the album. But then to follow that up with Stevie Nicks, rock and roll icon.
She's also good friends with Stevie Nicks.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. So that must be really
cool.
Yeah. To be able to be like, I'm writing this song about the icon of this era that is also, my buddy.
Yeah.
But placing herself in a line is kind of reflective in a introspective way. It's like the age of these women passed. And my age will pass also. Which
is why I think that we can accept it with as not like a prideful thing. She's very humble about her place in history. She's always known that a star is only a star for so long. What was it, like Lucky One on her self-titled album, where it's talking about like you're a lucky one for only so long. Yeah. And then you're lucky if you get out with your dignity and go live the life that you actually want to live, i.e. family, getting married and having kids, the thing that she wanted. Exactly. And Clara Bow is also unique in that I think it's one of the only songs on the album that it is sad, but it also has a sparkle of hope at the end. She said the future is bright. It's dazzling. So she doesn't just leave us there at the end of how many 16 tracks with just despair. Yeah, the future is bright. It's dazzling. And that's intentional. Like, she cannot have not done that last line of the album on purpose. I believe she does everything on purpose. Of course. After all this time, I believe that she did that on purpose. Oh, the title track being parallel with The Alchemy is also important. Oh, yeah. I think that's something else that kind of lends itself to our chiasm theory, which I like to think is less of a theory and more of a rule, but whatever. So the Tortured Poets Department is paralleled with The Alchemy, if you're going by our chiasm theory. And an alchemical process is the process of changing one chemical to another, like iron to gold. Because we're talking about how the really core theme of this album is how her experiences have changed her as a person and how terrible, tragic experiences can be redeemed. And I think the parallels are not so much lyrical between these two tracks, but the fact that The Alchemy is paired with the title track means that it's reflecting on the transformational process of the entire album. Right, exactly. And then also, just a little side tidbit is that the Tortured Poets Department got its album name based off of, Taylor took Joe Alwyn's group chat title name, The Tortured Man's Club, and changed it and made it her album, The Tortured Poets Department. So you would think that song would be about Joe Alwyn, but it's actually about Maddie Healy. What?
Which one?
The Tortured Poets.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So I was like, The Alchemy is not about Maddie Healy.
No. That one's about Travis Kelce.
Yeah, which is like the whole new thing.
Yeah, the new... Oh, we got to get into that, but we will. But essentially, just another nod to not everything is what it appears to be. Take it at face value on this album.
And not everything is what it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we've talked a lot about Fortnite, the track, already as being like a very good setup for things. There's so much more that we could go into, but I feel like we will not get to the rest of the album if we talk about it more.
Yeah. And like we're already planning on this being an extra long episode, which we didn't warn our editor about. Sorry, Joseph. But we've kept you guys waiting for so long and there's so much to say. We felt like an hour-long episode. Like, it's a double album, so we'll do double length for each part.
For each part. for both episodes.
Right. Yeah.
So rolling right into the Tortured Poets department, it's about Ratty Healy.
Tell us about Ratty Healy.
I told you as much as I want to say about Ratty Healy.
Well,
he's gross.
Basically, what you need to know is he's the rebound.
He's the rebound.
Everyone knew he was a bad idea. Taylor knew he was a bad idea.
He's the front man of the 1975, the band. So, he's got a great voice.
But that's all you need to know about him.
That's all you need to know.
A dirt human being, from what I hear.
Yeah.
Not that we're into judging people based on their public reputations.
Absolutely
but
not. No.
Yeah, definitely an escapism. Like what you would expect from the rebound from a relationship that was stable to the point of being cold as the grave. She characterizes the Joe Alwyn relationship as safe and stranded.
No,
sorry. That was how he left her. He left her safe and stranded.
Maddie did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, what is the line that I'm thinking of?
I don't know.
I thought it was better to be safe than starry-eyed.
Oh, okay.
That's the idea that...
In Loss of My Life.
Right. Where Joe Alwyn was such a private individual and was very much closing out the unpredictable show business world.
Yeah, where she had been... before she was with Joe Alwyn, she had been with several shortish term relationships that were very volatile. And so he was a very safe option, very private. She thought it was better safe than starry-eyed. Yes, that concept there.
So Maddie Healy is the opposite of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's characterized all throughout this song. You smoked, then ate 7 bars of chocolate, which which has a double meaning because you could say he smoked, which is again tying into the drugs theming and just stuff we know about Maddie Healy in general. And then ate 7 bars of chocolate could either be you had the weirdest munchies ever and ate 7 bars of chocolate, or the new Gen Z term for doing anything really well is they ate that and left no crumbs. So he ate 7 musical bars of the 1975 song Chocolate. So
I also think it would be funny if she meant it as you're 1 bar short of an entire blues motif. It's 8 bar blues is a thing. Yeah. And 7 is very awkward musically.
So it's filled with a lot of disses, as you would expect from this song.
Yeah. It's kind of reminiscent of how she talked about her relationship with Harry Styles in Red. There's the apartment and the volatility. Yeah. Lots of echoes of that.
But it does reflect on poets as well. She puts herself and him, Maddie Healy, in line with Dylan Thomas, Patti Smith, saying, we're not them. But then later on, she's talking about, other musical artists by their first names, which I think is kind of a nod to later in history, you'll know them as Jack Antonoff, but I call him Jack, right. and I said that to Jack about you. So I felt seen. And you know what I mean? Yeah. Kind of toying with this idea of big poets are known by their first and last name in history, but we know each other by our first names. So it kind of plays with that idea here too. That's all I have to say about the Tortured Poets department. I think it's a bop. I really like listening to it musically and lyrically.
Yeah, I will say musically, this whole album is really settling into what we know as Taylor Swift style. It's similar musically to Midnight's, to Lover. It's the pop, lots of good synth. Yeah. It's, again, going back to that first listen through where I didn't like it. It wasn't that I disliked it musically. It was musically, it's just fine. It's just what she's done before. Yeah. I don't think she's covering new ground for her musically.
No, I don't think so.
But, you know, now that I have come to like the album as a whole, I would say that a lot more charitably now, I think.
Yeah.
Where this is the Taylor Swift that we have come to know
And
in
love.
her mature style.
Yeah, in her mature style, absolutely. My boy breaks his favorite toys.
Yeah.
It's pretty, like, hits the nail on the head. It really has, like,
really a Toy Story 4 vibe, which I resent everything about Toy Story 4 because it breaks the bond between child and toy.
Wow. That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. But
bonus episode.
It jumps right into the theming, though, in the very first lines. Oh, here we go again. The voices in his head.
Mm-hmm. Madness.
Closely tying madness to Maddie Healy. This song is very much about the love bomminess of their relationship. How, like, oh, you should have seen his face when he first saw me. He lights up. And then he just, like, breaks me and leaves me in the sandbox kind of a thing.
Once I fix me, he's gonna miss me. I love that line because it reminds me of this really iconic Tumblr post that goes, once I fix the chemical imbalance in my brain, it is over for you hoes.
I feel
which
that.
is just iconic. But feeling broken really resonates with, you know, if you've ever had any form or degree of mental illness, it's like, I know something is not right and I can't fix it. And it's, so that's fitting in with that experience.
Yeah. There's also some lyrics in here that she references later. I don't think it's the direct parallel in the chiasm, but she says, my boy only breaks his favorite toys. I'm queen of the sandcastles he destroys. And then later in the alchemy, she talks about
that child's play back in school
is forgiven under my rule.
Meaning she has actually grown past this.
Yes.
It's like, oh, that's
All
exactly what we hoped she would do.
Yeah, she actually is the queen, and she decided to forgive the little boy for all of his naughtiness. Love that for Queen Taylor. Thank you so much.
And the smallest man, which is the parallel in the chiasm, talks about how he treated his queen as an also ran.
Which is what? Because I had to look that up.
It's like, you were in the race.
You also
Congrats,
ran.
you were there. You did not get first or second or third. You were there. Congrats.
You were and also ran.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's so rough.
Yeah. So that's that song. It makes us dislike Maddie Healy
more than I already did. And then Down Bad. Okay.
We talked about this as the alien abduction song, which
I love this song.
It's a great song.
It's a great song. Listen, if you're not a fan of swearing, you're not going to like this song. It's not the song
this
for
is
you.
not the one for you.
But if you love a tight metaphor like we do, you're going to like this song.
Yeah. And it does employ my favorite humorous form of swearing, which is to insert the thing into the middle of another word, which just, it amuses me. And I can't really explain just why, but
absolutely.
It does.
Did you really beam me up in a cloud of sparkling dust just to do experiments on?
Did that really happen?
Did you really take one of the, is it in this song where she asks if the whole point was to rust her sparkling summer? Is it this one or is it later?
So. I think it's this one.
It was the smallest man who ever lived.
Okay. Yeah, the parallel.
Is it the direct parallel?
Yeah. No, sorry.
No.
Just kidding.
The parallel
is the I can do it with a broken heart.
Right. Absolutely. But yeah, a great tight metaphor. Staring at the sky, come back and pick me up. She wants this love bombing man to come back and get her, even though he's an alien. And I do think Maddie Healy looks like an alien. And so that's that on that.
All right. Shall we talk about the track 5?
I think we should.
So Long London.
First impressions. I love the vocalization in the very first part of the song where she's saying So Long London. It's layered and it sounds like
chimes.
The bells.
Yeah.
The bells in London. It's gorgeous. And then it really gets into, just the heavy stuff about this relationship. There's no real metaphors in here. It's all pretty.
Yeah. There's a little bit of religious imagery. She died on the altar, sacrificed to the gods of his bluest days.
Another reference to false god as well.
There's also Stitches Undone, where she's talked about him before, like in Invisible String, as being bound together by the strings of fate. Those stitches are being undone, which is another interesting theme with how she reflects on her life in, what's the one where they took out all her teeth?
Oh.
Who's Afraid?
Yeah, Who's Afraid of Little?
Where where the circus life is what killed her. The mirror ball has fallen and is shattered. Mm-hmm. She's wrestling with this idea of the life that she chose, having destroyed her, and her having sealed her own destiny. We'll talk about that more next time.
Next time on the anthology, the prophecy really gets into that.
Yeah. But there's this question, we've brought that up on so many episodes before of like, she's struggling with this experience, but it's a result of the life that she chose.
Yes. So she's honestly kind of not giving up, but right now she doesn't have the life that she's talked about wanting: marriage, kids, all of that. And it is somewhat of a direct result of the life that she has chosen. So
it would be hard to be a normal housewife when you're Taylor Swift.
Yeah, absolutely.
International pop phenomenon.
Yeah. And then this song really cements all of the death imagery that she's begun on other albums, specifically in Midnights. But I left all I knew, you left me at the house by the heath. So again, being caged in that relationship. I stopped CPR.
If you're a literature fan listener, you can tell us if that's an allusion to Wuthering Heights. I don't know.
Maybe. I stopped CPR after all its no use. The spirit was gone we would never come to. It's pretty much just all out there.
Yeah. Two graves, one gun.
Yeah, my white knuckle dying grip, holding tight to your quiet resentment. Yikes. Ugh. Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah. So I think appropriately this is the track 5.
This is the track 5. And Loss of My Life, the parallel and the chiasm.
Even worse.
Same feelings.
But so much worse.
Same feelings, same themes even. Like same imagery. They embroidered the memories. The stitching is coming undone. We had stitched this specific thing and now we're undoing it.
Yeah. You and I go from one kiss to getting married. Just something that he had kind of dangled in front of her
talking
for
rings
a while.
And talking cradles.
Yeah. Still alive, killing time at the cemetery, never quite buried.
Dancing phantoms on the terrace. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like we can like stop at the middle because we've covered the, the second half.
Feel like that. For me, the bridge of Loss of My Life, it constantly gives me chills. Or I don't know if you can even call it a bridge. It's right at the end, like the last verse. What a valiant roar, what a bland goodbye. The coward claimed he was a lion. Mm-hmm. I'm combing through the braids of lies. I'll never leave, never mind. Our field of dreams engulfed in fire, your arsons match your somber eyes, and I'll still see it until I die. You're the loss of my life. I gave myself chills.
Yeah, you gave me chills too. It's heavy.
It's heavy. So that's the direct parallel to So Long London, and you can see all of the problems in their relationship in that song that leads to this tragedy.
I think for the sake of time, we should probably skip over But Daddy, I Love Him, because we did kind of discuss that already.
I think I would like to talk about the framing of it.
Sure.
Because I think that's so important in how I personally felt unbetrayed by things. So just the title, But Daddy, I Love Him, a direct quote from Ariel.
Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid. She's 16 years old when she says, But Daddy, I love him, to King Triton. And everyone goes, you're a child.
You're 16 years old.
You're dumb.
Yeah.
So I think her giving such an obvious title name is kind of framing the whole song as that petulant teenage voice, which she talks about in Down Bad, because But Daddy, I Love Him is also talking about Maddie Healy and her kind of saying, I love him to
and
the
I don't
world.
Care what anybody thinks, including you fans.
But even though that's the message of the song, the title is putting it into context where she knows that is
teenage petulance.
Which she says in Down Bad, everything comes out teenage petulance.
Yeah. So there's some self-awareness here.
Exactly, which like simmering on that made me feel better because she's saying, yes, this is how I felt at one point, but also I'm aware that what this sounded like and what it actually was. Yeah. Especially when she's talking about they slammed the door on my whole world. The one thing I wanted. So really,
not the whole world.
Not the whole world.
Just one thing.
They said one thing wasn't good for you and you threw a tantrum. But she's owning up to it.
She is owning up. I think that is a correct read on that. Especially given the last line of the chiastic parallel. Whoa, maybe I can't fix him.
Yes, exactly. So I really love the structure of the chiasm because it does allow her to tell her story as she was experiencing it, because she did feel this way. I'd rather burn my whole life down than listen to one more second of all this bitching and moaning. Funny. That's hilarious. and yet also tell us how she feels about it now later. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. I felt that was important.
Yeah, and that is the song that has the line I was looking for about chemistry and destiny, where there are these two questions that she's asking throughout the album, two additional questions, in addition to all the other questions that we've talked about her asking. What is it that governs her life? Is it chemistry, like sexual chemistry, personality chemistry, whatever? Or is it destiny? Is this predetermined from the end? Notably, alchemy is neither of those things.
Yeah.
It's a secret third thing.
It's a secret third thing. And I really like the alchemy. One, because it is about Travis Kelce, and at this moment in time, they're doing great, and I feel like it's
they
cute.
look very happy together.
They look very happy. The first opening lines are, "This happens once every few lifetimes. These chemicals hit me like white wine." And white wine is notably not red, which she talks about constantly.
And there's the image of the red wine stained dress that has come back in multiple albums before, right?
Yeah, she talks about being stained by red wine multiple times. White wine doesn't stain like that, and I don't think that she thinks that this relationship will stain her like the other ones, because it's different.
It's different. Yeah.
What if I told you I'm back? The hospital was a drag. Worst sleep I ever had. So she's coming out of, on this side of the chiasm, all of the madness and the drugs. She's getting color back in her face, as she says in one of her songs.
And Travis Kelce actually appeared in one of her shows for that line, right?
Yes, yeah. In her Tortured Poets Department segment of the Eras tour, he shows up in his black and white top hat and suit and carries her over to the couch, and then she gets up, and it's all like a silent film-esque thing, and her stagehands and Travis Kelce are helping get her up for I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, and he's the one who puts blush on her cheeks.
Very cute touch.
Very cute touch. But yeah, also it's just like a very a cute song, and all of that. So
I think the question that we asked at the beginning of our joint listen through, when we were like, this is the last album, we don't really like it, but let's look at where we are. It's actually a question also that had been posed by listeners, friends, various individuals, and that is, what is a Swiftie? And are you one? And I think I came to this definition that was, a Swiftie is a person who has like a physiological reaction of joy to the mention, presence, or concept of Taylor Swift, or any of her songs. Not necessarily all of her songs, but in any of her songs, or some selection of her songs. And I was like, I just don't think I have that.
Yeah. And then
we listened to this album, and we discovered the chiasm and the unbetrayal, the feeling of unbetrayal.
Yes. I looked at you and you said, I feel unbetrayed, which means that at one point I felt betrayed.
which means I think I'm a Swiftie. Yay! So here we are. And the album we least expected to do it.
I didn't even like it at first. It changed everything. And I kid you not, you guys, she has the red string board eyes. Like that one meme where the guy has the red strings on the board and he's trying to explain everything in a crazy way, like we've just done for the last hour. That was in her eyes. It was amazing.
It all makes sense.
It all makes sense. It's all connecting.
It's not a conspiracy. They really are after me.
I'm so happy.
Yeah. It's been a journey.
It's been
this whole journey. Project has been a journey. This album has been a journey. And until this episode is released, I think all of our friends still believe that we hated this album, which has been a fun secret to try and keep.
Absolutely. They're like, oh, how are you going to get through this episode? And I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, we'll have a lot to say.
We'll have a lot to say. And boy, did we.
Boy, did we.
So I think we should wrap up because, oh boy, did we have a lot to say.
We did.
We have a lot of people to thank.
We do. Chief of those is our editor, Joseph.
Magician-in-chief.
Magician-in-chief. We did not warn him that this was going to be a double-length episode, so apologies and thank you.
Thank you.
Also, Talitha, our design lead, for designing unique, what do you call? They're like an album cover for each episode.
Yeah.
each episode art. Yeah.
Episode art.
Yeah, she's been an absolute champ. We love her work. Big thank you to our media manager, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a funny thing about Rebecca that I'm going to let y'all know, is that she records a lot of things, just like on the download, just like as she's going about her day. Because like she'll have a thought and she'll want to remember it later. So
she'll record it.
She better be recording at that point. And when we listened through this album, we were like, oh my goodness, the experience of figuring out this album was such a trip.
Yes.
That we were like, we should have just done a Rebecca and just
should have recorded this because this was the
experience.
podcast.
Yeah.
We love you, Rebecca.
We do.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening, especially if you've stayed with us for this long. Thank you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you in a couple weeks
for the Tortured Poets Department anthology.
Yeah.
Which we also have thoughts about.
So many
thoughts.
See you next time.
Goodbye.